So the next paper will be given by Paweł Duma. He is assistant professor at the Institute of Archaeology in the University of Wrocław in Poland. He's a member and national representation of the Ruralia Association, as indeed are several people associated with today's seminar. Paweł's main interests concern historical archaeology, profane death, late medieval and post-medieval material culture, and rural settlement. He's excavated numerous sites in Silesia, both as a team member and a supervisor, and is the author and co-author of several articles published in the international scholarly journals. And he's going to be talking today on infrastructure archaeology and medieval rural settlement in Poland. So, Paweł, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, and greetings from Boston, where I am staying for a while. I just start from this slide showing the state of our knowledge and state of the motorways in Poland. As you see, that the 2 last decades, it's a huge change in Poland, and its influence, of course, archaeology. On the left, you see the situation from 2002, when we have only a very short part of motorway located in the Silesia, and this motorway was built by Nazi Germany in the 30s. So this state completely changed during the last 2 decades, as you see, 2022, and the state of the motorways, it's the landscape completely changed. What influenced also our state of knowledge according to the rural settlements, and of course our state about the settlement in early medieval and late medieval rural settlement. But before the program started, of course, everything started in 1996, when the first archaeological I don't see my presentation.
It seems to have dropped off our screen as well,
do you see it, or because no. I don't?
Do you want to just try sharing again? It looks like it might have stopped sharing.
Oh, of course, I will.
Okay, we can see it again. We're on the very first slide.
I don't know what happened, but okay. And what we know and what we didn't know before this date, I can tell you that archaeological settlement studies have not been conducted at the late Middle Ages rural sites in Poland. So probably we started from the point 0, and everything changed, I think. The study of rural areas has not yet enjoyed popularity among archaeologists. There are probably several reasons for this. Such studies do not usually produce very spectacular results, neither in terms of remains of building nor the relatively poor material culture. In 1996, as I said, Polish archaeology faced a huge challenge of large-scale rescue excavation at sites threatened by the construction of motorways and expressways. Already at that time, this program was described as undoubtedly unprecedented on a European scale, but due to the extent of this task and the planned duration of its implementation. And as you see, the excavation results were published, or they are still published in few journals dedicated only for this and erected only for these reasons. As you see, we have some reports published once a year describing the results of this rescue archaeological projects connected with the motorways, mostly motorways and expressways. We have few organizations. The main organization responsible for the excavation is National Institute of Cultural Heritage. We have, of course, Polish Academy of Science that was also involved in the excavation for a very long time. And of course, we have many universities that were involved in few infrastructure rescue archaeology projects, and they published recently few books or many monographs of the sites strictly connected with the infrastructure archaeology. I do not have data about the percentage of the results according to the rural medieval settlement, but we can see that most of the publications are divided in chronological order. So mostly at the end we have information about the new sites from the early medieval times and late medieval times and the modern era. But I should add that relatively rarely abandoned villages, granges, and late medieval hamlets are examined on the occasion of the large infrastructure investments, and this is due to the fact that expressways, motorways, and bypasses, as a rule, bypass rural settlement that still exist today, most of which remain in their medieval location. And occasionally there are also discoveries of late medieval rural settlements, which for countries where villages and manor farms from the late Middle Ages have so far been the subject of research very rarely and usually accidentally, means a great progress in research. During the construction and expansion of roads in Central Europe, settlements from the 12th, 13th centuries are discovered, which is not without significance for studies on the course of the colonization and foundation turn of 12th to 14th century. The probability of finding a late medieval village on the occasion of such investments is small, as in the overwhelming majority of incorporated villages in Poland, rural settlements have not changed their location since their establishment until the present day. So it's a paradox, because thanks to the rescue excavation, now we know more about the early medieval settlement and situation in early medieval period than in the late medieval times. So it's a gap. And I have selected few examples of the sites that were excavated during this period and are connected with the changes in our state of knowledge and about the rural settlements. So we have a lot of new finds of early medieval villages. It is one example when the extensive multicultural settlement was discovered. And as we see, it's also interesting and important to point out that the predicted site range changed completely after excavation. We see the colors. It's It's this dark gray. It's a predicted site range, and this gray color, this lighter gray. It's a real range of the actual range of the settlement. A characteristic feature of the early medieval village is the farmstead type development system. Buildings usually occur in the clusters consisting of a house and auxiliary farm buildings. The importance of the research conducted in Żyraków lies primarily in the fact that we have a map of part of the village from the tribal period and the first decades of the Polish states. The village is from the 7th to 11th century. We have also some older sites, like this one here is the largest excavated settlement in Poland of the Prague culture. So it's the time when the Slavs came in the nowadays Poland, and the rescue excavation initiated a change in our state of knowledge, not only the presence of the Slavs in this region, but also in all Poland, I think. And these excavated dwellings here were almost square in plan, so it's a very common model during this period among the Slavs. The wooden walls of the most buildings were built in log construction, but it was also possible to notice that the relics of post structures. There were remains of a stone oven in one corner of each hut. It's very consequence repeated model. The rescue excavation along the road of the motorway have completely changed the statistic about the I don't know, number of the sites, number of the houses, number of the features excavated during this time. Specific forms of development can now be dated conclusively to the 7th century. Slavic houses appeared in groups, creating a spatial arrangement that we can call village. It's something new that we didn't know before the project started, and we didn't have so many occasions to see the village in all borders. We have also the discoveries from Silesia, so it's southwest Poland, where also many villages were discovered. It's one of them. One good example where the remains of the buildings and wells were discovered. So we have also the dates from the wells, dendro dates from the wells from the 7th, from the 8th century. The largest group of historic material obtained at the Sadków site is formed by, of course, ceramic vessels. But as we see, or you can see, it was also discovered a deposit of farm tools and iron tools. It's very rare find, and it's one of the spectacular finds connected with the infrastructure, archaeology, rescue archaeology. And the settlement exists probably till the first half of the 13th century, with a break lasting probably from the fourth quarter of the 9th century to the end of 10th century. It's another example of the early medieval settlement from Silesia. As we can see, it's located close to the medieval village. We don't know if it's somehow connected with the changes in the pattern in medieval times, but it's probably this example when the village changed its location. But also we can recognize this another problem of recognition of the site range and actual settlement range. Like we see, it was much bigger as was supposed. And of course, the remains of the houses, the remains of few graves, and also a lot of finds connected with the times from the 7th till the 11th, even 12th century. We have also the very spectacular and unusual finds connected with rural settlement in Poland. It's one of them. I selected this example because it's very interesting, and it's a part of medieval village or settlement. As we can see, it's multicultural sites. We see also a lot of features here. And the late medieval features are marked black, and as you can see, they were discovered remains of the houses, and it's one house or close to one house. Archaeologists found two bodies, and it was the man and woman. And men, as we can see, someone cut his hand and laid his hand close to the body, broke his head, and anthropologists found also other traces of violence on the skeleton. And the house, as we can see, it's maybe not clear visible, but you should trust me. The house was partially burned down, so it's a clear evidence of violence. And not so far away from the houses, in the location close in the middle, it's a small arrow marked the place when the two deposits of the coins were found from the late 15th century. Two vessels, with one with the small coins and the huge vessel with the bigger coins inside. Archaeologists somehow believe that the hoard was connected with this house, or somehow connected with this violent situation that had been occurred in this settlement. So it's interesting not only because of the fact that there were new houses discovered, but also it's somehow interesting because of this violence traces and the hoard discovered in the village or in the settlement. And the infrastructure on the rescue archaeologists projects were very good when we are talking about the infrastructure and the place where the not only the bricks were produced, but also it was the discovery of the water mill, what is very new and unusual for Polish archaeology, because till the 2002, we know only one medieval water mill discovered in Poland in the 70s, and it's here we see the second one. And because of the wet soil and the water, the wood preserved very good. And we have also dendrodates from the piles, and we have dendrodates from the remains of water wheel. And from the piles, we have mostly the dates close to the 1380, and from the wheels 1421, 1422. So it's the 14th, 15th century, and no dates from the early medieval period. So probably the water mill disappeared in the 16th century. Among others were discovered the water basin gate remnants of the eastern protection of the bottom channel, the water wheel, and 2 supports of the wheel shaft. The arrangement of the remnants of wooden elements did not constitute a basis for reconstruction of the form of the mill and the related infrastructure. No similar archaeological material dated to the Middle Ages period had been discovered in Poland before. And it also we have it's one example. It's very rare that I said earlier of the late medieval settlement. It's a kind of a range existing from 15 during the 16th till the beginning of 19th century. And it's very good that the site was published entirely. It's not so common in Poland as I notice. And we have also the precise chronological dates from 3 wells that were excavated in the middle of this settlement. We have the dates 1350. The second well was built around the 1420, and results shows that one well functioned for a number of centuries, having traces of many repairs from medieval times till the 18th century. And the concentration of the development structure of the early modern period around the square where the well functioned proved that the concept of space development created in the Middle Ages was maintained till the modern period. An important moment of the modern history of buildings and structures concerned was the destruction of a part of them as a result of fire in the middle of 17th century, and buildings were probably demolished at the beginning of the 19th century.
Got 2 minutes, Paweł.
Okay. And it's not only settlement, but also it was possible to discover some remains of the, as we see, arable land and the way how the peasants treat the fields. Maybe it's not so important, but the last example that I was involved in person, so it was important for me. It's the very interesting part of medieval settlement discovered by accident, and the village exists in this place from the 13th till the, I think, end of the 15th century. It was destroyed because of agricultural activity, but we can see the blue features are from the medieval period. I can recognize the pattern, but it's very interesting that the village, we didn't find any traces in the medieval sources about the location of this village. So it was very interesting. We have several houses partially discovered, and some of them were in very good preserved states, as we can see. So it was one of interesting finds during all the projects. I don't have many final remarks. I have only the one remarks about the infrastructure archaeology at all. It's I think that we can divide the infrastructure archaeology in Poland into two phases, with the year 2009 being in the middle. Until then, research was conducted mainly by specialized research centers with high substantive standards. After that date and legal changes, price was the main criterion for choosing an archaeological excavation contractor. As a result, research was often conducted at low cost, without scientific value and without publication of results. And it's the main problem in Polish archaeology. And we have a lot of data, but without publication. And paradoxically, after 2009, only a small percentage of studies were published. The time pressure associated with the construction of highways mean that the archaeological heritage was not treated as a priority by the state. So it's the final remark from me connected with my presentation. Thank you very much.